Hi everyone, my name is Jeet, and today I'm going to go over how to use AI as a form of leverage in business. I'm going to keep this video high level, stick to the basics, and keep it applicable to anyone, regardless of whether you know how to code or not. Let's begin. So let's go over a quick definition of leverage. Essentially, what that means is, in this diagram, putting 1 unit of work and getting 5 times of unit of work out of it, right? So I push by 5 pounds, but I lift 25 pounds, right? And kind of we see this time and time again in business, throughout the years. Last example that everyone was able to kind of leverage until the market became saturated is ads, I would say. Back when, Google, Facebook, Instagram, now LinkedIn, kind of starting to come up and people are starting to use that service. People realize if I put ads in place, then it's pretty easy to get users for my business out of it, right? And that's, that kind of springed up the whole, digital marketing agency, and people made a lot of money off of that. That market now is actually pretty saturated. TikTok is kind of a new opportunity, but TikTok and LinkedIn, but for the most part, everyone's kind of caught up on that. But why was that so powerful? It's powerful because from a business point of view, I could spend $10,000 on ads and keep it customized to the exact user I want, and in return get literally $50,000 worth of sales, right? It almost feels like free money. If I'm putting in $10,000, I'm getting $50,000 out. Why would I not use it, right? That's a form of leverage. And that's exactly what AI is too, just maybe not so directly, and perhaps maybe with a little more work than your typical AI and kind of setting typical ads and kind of setting it up. So let's go over some common use cases, some food for thought on how people are using this. First is going to be generating a weekly newsletter. A lot of newsletters that you see, especially about AI, if you're watching this video, you probably are already kind of subscribed to them. A lot of them are actually just built using GPT, right? Or whatever, large language model people are using, which intends to be GPT, which sounds kind of crazy, right? Until you realize, either the founder or they post it online, to only to recognize that the thing that you've been reading this whole time thinking it's done by a human is done by a computer. And the reason why this is so important is, this kind of fits in the general category of content creation. The reason why this is so important is because if there's one person, let's say there's one person making a newsletter, you can have either spend 10 hours, doing your research and figuring out the relevant information, the news, whatever it may be, and putting that in a content form, versus finding the relevant data in like a matter of 10 minutes or so, spitting into the AI and finding out what's the most important stuff. And on top of that, creating a summary to send to your users. The only thing you would have to do as like the newsletter writer would be to just, proofread it, because AI is not perfect. In some cases, it can also be wrong. You have to be a little careful with that. But there's like a huge difference, right? One person's spending 10 hours, one person's spending like 30 minutes to an hour, right? Absolute max. So content creation as a whole is pretty important, I think, for AI and anyone who's in that business. If you're writing blog posts, definitely use AI. If you're, SEO, any kind of SEO business, any kind of business where you have to write, right? Even law, even like specific use cases, you definitely can use AI, right? And even if it's a specific format, you can teach the AI to learn using embeddings, which I'm going to go over in a bit. Second is going to be a brainstorm partner. This one's pretty big. And, for people, for creatives, this is going to be a very helpful tool, especially when you're stuck, because GPT has been trained on a lot of data. I think it's like 2 billion parameters or so since 2021. So it has a lot of information that it can retrieve. If you're stuck at any point in time, you can just use AI and ask it to kind of give you ideas, or say, I'm stuck in this. Can you give me some different directions I can jump off of? And it'll spit it out. It'll spit it out accurately and in a timely manner. So it's very good to kind of get around when you're stuck. Third thing is going to be replacing customer service. This one's a pretty self-explanatory one. I mean, everyone uses probably the chatbot interface in GPT. Some people think, GPT is the chatbot. It's not. It's the model itself, and the model is kind of transformed. The way you interact with it is in a chat interface. But GPT as a model is, an NLP model. It's at its core, it's literally just an autocomplete model. It just does that really well, so it doesn't seem like it. And we're gonna go over that in the next slide. But that's the third use case. And finally, fourth use case is analyzing financial data. This one's starting to become bigger. And analyzing data in general and finding patterns is very good with finding patterns, right? It's good with kind of coming up with new ideas, but I would say, at least from my, tinkering with it, it's not so much good with finding different, new ideas off of data you give it, specifically in like a spreadsheet format or in a non-traditional essay format. So that's being used. And these four are general categories, content creation, brainstorming. Jasper, you have a lot of services that do the brainstorming thing and do it well as well. Chatbot, this has been around, but with even if you're a business owner, you can probably learn prompt engineering in an hour or so and build an effective customer service chatbot that gets 80% of the job done. And the stuff it can do, you can tell it to literally just direct you to an email or your number or whatever maybe, and it can do that very, very easily. So therefore, high level use cases. Next thing I want to touch on is embeddings. This one's huge, hence the big letters and exclamation mark. This is probably, I would say, more important than the embeddings. Support for embeddings is more important and more influential, I would say, than GPT-4 itself. The reason being, embeddings essentially are vectors. And what embeddings allow is for you to input any of your own data in any format. So it could be spreadsheet, it could be music, it could be obviously writing, it could be an image, whatever it is, whatever data you have on the computer, can turn that into an embedding, which is a matrix that the model can understand, put that through the model, and actually use the power of the model to answer questions based off of that, or generate findings or find similarities. Embeddings is huge, right? And to give you like a concrete example, let's say you have a book that you're reading and you want to kind of reference it, right? But it's a long book, or it could be a textbook, whatever it may be. You can put that PDF, assuming you have the copyright, whatever it is, assuming you have access to it online, you can put that through a PDF converter, turn that into the raw data, put that through the model in the form of an embedding, and get any question you want answered through it, right? And you can imagine the use case for this is absolutely huge, right? Because now you can, put in insurance data. You could put in the notes that your customers give you and then generate the high level ideas, right? What this allows is for you to kind of, whatever your business case, specific use case is, put that into the model, which you couldn't do before. Before it was only text-based. And even if it was text-based, you had to kind of do it yourself. You can use an API to basically kind of transmit data into the model every single day, every single time something's submitted, and adjust the model accordingly, or answers questions accordingly, or find findings accordingly. I think you get the idea. I'm going to go more into detail in future topics with embeddings, and there's also a lot of good videos online already. But if you haven't taken a look at embeddings, you definitely should. Like, you should probably do it right after watching this video. General tips. So this is going to be for people who are not too familiar with GPT. I assume, just people with varying experiences. Some people have kind of tried around with it. Some people haven't even signed up for an OpenAI account. Here are 5 tips that I personally use to understand this and understand, more importantly, the true potential that this software has and why everyone's hyping it up so much. Because I feel like if you don't play around with it yourself, you don't really understand the true power. First is going to be using GPT instead of Google for a week. I got this from, I believe it was my first million podcast. I think it was like Sam Parr who said it, but he did that for a week. I did the same thing. And I think that plays a key role in breaking your paradigm that you can do things better than GPT. Not that GPT can do things better than a human, but it can do things just as well, if not better, in a much shorter period of time. I'm not sure if you guys had this paradigm, but I almost had this paradigm that although GPT was good, it could never replace a human. And that's certainly not true. We saw that with the newsletter. We can see that, especially, if you try this yourself and see how accurate the results are compared to the Google search engine, and how quickly it can do things. And even in the future, I mean, I think this is already there, but you can even connect, the Google search results to GPT. And from there, figure out the most important, and from there, ask the program to go into the actual websites, find all the data, do that for the top 10, links, and then summarize the data and give you the most important stuff. You can do stuff like that. But just use GPT for a week to realize its true power. That's going to kind of break your idea that you can do things better, or the fact that AI is not as capable as you think it is. Second point is going to be, don't try to understand it. Just trust the AI. This kind of hits home because, as an engineer, I want to understand things from a first principles point of view. And the truth of the matter is, it's going to be very hard to understand AI. And I mean, specifically, this, GPT, BERT, Dolly, whatever it is. I mean, there are papers online, but you need to have a very good understanding of statistics, and coming from a statistics background as well, it's not easy to understand, even at a high level. So unless you're really curious and want to see how it works, I would just try to stray away from it and just trust it. And that kind of leads to the next point, which is, you do need to understand how to become an effective prompt engineer, right? It is kind of an art. There are different techniques like agents, roles, I can go more into that in a different video, and there's plenty of resources online. But using and learning how to use GPT properly is something that you need to kind of learn, especially if you're a non-programmer. As a programmer, it comes a little more intuitively because you know how to tell a computer what you want to do. You understand how to be very specific and break things down. It might not be as intuitive for someone who's not from a programming background, but regardless, there's different techniques you can use to make the most out of it. And that's already there online. I might make a video on that in the future. Fourth thing, this one's huge for if you're looking for, business ideas. Focus on traditional industries, focus on law, focus on manufacturing, focus on the non-sexy businesses, I would say. The ones that have, been the same way for, the past decades or so. Law is a good example of that. Documentation, that could be another one. Focus, and the reason being, because these are the places that no one's looking. AI is quickly becoming a red ocean in terms of, the business opportunity. I don't think it's there yet. I don't think the market's saturated at all in any way, but you can see there's so many people doing so many businesses. The competition is very, very high right now. And you want to find a way to get around it. And to be in a blue ocean, you really need to focus on something that not many people are focusing on. So it could be a traditional industry, or it could be the last point, which is, focusing on things that you already know about. It could be something you're working on for your job. It could be, a hobby project. Just don't try to don't try to build the cookie cutter, I'm going to build an essay writer. There's plenty of them out there, and they've spent already, kind of done the groundwork. So a lot of that's already done. Focus on things and find ways to kind of solve problems in a unique way in a unique industry. I think that's going to kind of set apart whether or not you're going to make money or not in this area. So yeah, I think that's about it. Let me know if that's helpful. Comment below if you want me to kind of make more videos, go more high level, go more low level, and maybe even kind of do some case studies on some businesses that have effectively used AI to generate wealth. Thank you guys.